Hola,
Hi, Elia.
Hi.
Jungas Tserit. Welcome. Laurel,
Hello.
thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, how have you been?
Really good. Pretty
Yeah.
busy, but really good.
Uh-huh.
And busy is usually happy times. So,
Okay.
yeah.
What are your projects?
I'm working on a film, a documentary,
Really?
a feature-length documentary with my best friend who's a director. So we're co-creating it. And then I have a new music project called Brittle Dreams with Mark Hamilton. And so I'm just about to go into a 10-day stretch of like every day rehearsaling and such things. So
Oh, how fun is that? That's
Yeah.
great.
it is fun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And Tanya,
Good morning.
good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
I'm lagging.
Yeah? Why?
Pretty early for me.
Uh-huh.
I heard you had some trouble sleeping because of snoring last
Yeah.
night. Is that that's the case?
Yep. Joey decided last night to be a rocket ship snorer. Oh my God. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more irritating than snores.
Oh, Michael.
I'm serious.
There should be like a checkbox when you're like gonna date somebody if they snore or not.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that limits the pool very
Mhm.
much.
B, how are you doing?
I'm
no one's
doing
asked you.
great.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
doing great. Nothing never better.
I'm digging the outfit.
Thank you.
The,
Yeah.
It's giving me a little bit of some Flashdance vibes.
Ooh.
Oh my God, I seen your video last night.
Which one?
The one you posted of your workout
Oh yeah, I've been
with
doing
the
that
syringe?
It's so
was-
inspiring, Beatrice.
with all
Yeah.
the angel wings
Okay,
and the
yeah.
sexy dancing. It was
Yeah.
so fun. I think I seen it at like 3 a.m. and I felt like getting up
Uh-huh.
If you
to the
can't
sound of
see-
snoring.
Yeah, to the sound of the dance track of snoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're only listening to this, what you can't see is that Beatrice is wearing an amazing tracksuit. It's pink, a Nike tracksuit, and
Mhm.
anyways,
Powder
it's very
pink.
it's fresh.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually inspired by Mike because he wears
Pink
matching.
tracksuit.
Yeah, he wears like matching hoodies and sweats. And finally, I found the perfect one in Ottawa last week.
I like when you post your workouts though, because I find it so hard to find motivation to work out at home. And then when I see them, I'm like, no, I can do it too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
At
I'm
home.
getting so much good feedback from these TikTok videos that I'm making of my workouts. It's so fun,
So fun.
but also like kind of, I mean, I'm not gonna let it stop me. But there's also like people who get annoyed of these kinds of posts. But I won't. Let's not get into that.
Jealous. That's jealousy. That's all that is.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah, that's true.
No, but I also bring so much motivation to other people. And I feel like if you focus on the things that it does good, it's only going to bring value to your own life.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I found it really hard, especially during the pandemic, to work out. And
Mm-hmm.
when I would
yeah.
see people working out at home, it made me want to work out because I was like, being at home, it's so comfortable. You don't want to make yourself uncomfortable, and working out can sometimes feel uncomfortable.
I mean, it's not supposed to be comfortable.
No.
That's the whole point. Yeah, I really got into the virtual at home workouts when the pandemic hit. I always used to have a gym membership. Excuse me. And yeah, go to the gym 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
But working out at home is so much better. It's you waste no time.
Yeah, I started working with your coach because you inspired me, actually. So I also
Yeah.
have Coach V.
Yes,
Shout out
she's
to her.
amazing.
She
Yeah,
is.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
She's so
Luciani.
beautiful.
She is. And just
Yeah.
that her focus is not on getting skinny.
Yeah.
It's like on being strong
Yeah.
and just
healthy and developing healthy habits.
Mhm.
Yeah, because society. Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah. It's yeah, and my relationship with food. I remember as a child, if I like something, like for example, if an orange is super juicy, I'll make sure to have 4 of them
Mm.
in one sitting. Um, or chips is also an issue for me.
Chips is an issue for me.
Yeah, like I have to have the whole bag. But with Vanessa's help, I'm changing my mindset to this is not the last time you're going to eat this.
Exactly.
Just enjoy every bite, chew it, feel the textures, and not not have the next bite ready already. But
Be in the moment
enjoy
with
it.
the
Yeah,
food.
be in the moment with the food, and that way you're not gonna overeat. Yeah.
So practicing mindful eating.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly how she puts it. Yeah, and not depriving ourselves from indulging once in a while.
And enjoying. Always enjoying.
Yeah,
And
totally.
appreciating what we have, you know?
Yeah. I've really learned, like in the last few years, that our body is our body only once. And different beliefs, different religions say it in different wording, but all have the same meaning, where our body is our temple and we must treat it as such. So I try to be mindful of that. I try to eat healthy foods, because if I want to stay healthy, and especially when I'm older, because now I'm 40 and I'm starting to feel like little aches and like joint inflammation, and I get tired much more easily. So looking at older people, elders with knee problems and back problems and heart issues and diabetes and things like that. And they have to take a lot of medication just to function. And I don't want that. So I try to keep that in mind. Like if I want to be strong and healthy and able-bodied in the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, who knows? I have to take care of my body today.
Did you always feel it that way?
No.
What was the catalyst to that change?
When I quit drinking 11 and a half years ago, first of all, I didn't really focus on what I was eating. But when I got sober, the mindset of wanting to better myself emotionally also um, also affected my desire to be physically healthy. So that's when I started trying to eat better, learning what good food does to the body and what bad food. But it took years also to change that lifestyle. And it's still something that I'm still learning today, even after 11 and a half years. Like I stopped drinking pop 11 and a half years ago. Also when I quit drinking, whereas I would regularly eat like chicken nuggets and McDonald's and a lot of pasta. Like I grew up with steak and potatoes kind of meals at home as a child, and that's fine. But also a lot of like preservatives, like pizzas and Chef Boyardee and hot dogs and all those sorts of things. And today, like those today for me personally, I would not feed my child these things on a regular basis.
Mm.
Like once in a while it's okay.
I don't know if you guys had things like Chef Boyardee and
Yeah.
all of those. Like I grew up on all of those things, and I remember the last time I tried to eat Chef Boyardee. In my
Oh, yeah.
memory, it was so delicious and so good, and I couldn't even have more than 2
Same.
bites. I
Same.
was
Heartburn.
appalled. Yeah,
Salt.
and I was like,
Heartburn.
I couldn't feed this to a child either, unless
Uh-huh.
that was all you. I mean, obviously, different
Yeah.
circumstances, but if you have a
Uh-huh.
choice not to, I would, I would, I would not.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
like I had a really different relationship with food when I hear about how other people grew up with food, because my parents were always like mindful cookers. They
Yeah.
would be cooking like it was a treat to have fast food, and it was a treat that you would only get if everyone was like good and kind and didn't get in any trouble for the month, and then you might have it that month.
Oh,
Otherwise,
yeah. So yours was pretty structured, hey?
because they valued flavor, and flavor tends to come from whole foods, and over everything it could be simple, but the ingredients had to be good.
Yeah.
And then I grew up so jealous of everyone who would have like frozen pizzas, Chef Boyardee's, and like my friends, if they came to school with a Lunchable, I'd like really like be so nice to them so I could get a bite,
Really?
because I wasn't allowed to eat that.
Uh-huh.
And it was because they practiced the mindful eating like you guys do now. And my mom and my dad were like really strict on what went in our bodies, but there was no limit on how much could go in.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what was like super healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Is we could eat as much as we wanted until we were full, but it wasn't going to be something that was bad for us.
Okay. That's great. That's like um there was no limit to food in our household either, but there was a lot of junk food. There's a lot of junk food, like way too much.
It's like us too. Well, my grandmother, she didn't know better. You know,
Yeah.
she
Neither did
really
mine.
didn't know. I mean, she was born in a tent and then told that these canned foods, these processed foods that were now available in a store were the thing to feed your children. So like that's what we grew up on, and I think I really think that all that bad food has affected me now. Like I'm just on this. I have um I love that kind of food.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
much, and
yeah.
it's not good. Like I would dare not ever feed my son that.
Uh-huh.
I feed my son really well, but I find I put my health on the back burner
Yeah,
because I
hey.
love like corned beef hash and
Oh yeah.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
no, that
Yeah, with
that's
macaroni.
yummy.
Craft dinner with
or
corned
like
beef hash.
Lipton's chicken noodle soup, just because it says chicken noodle soup and
Uh-huh.
they automatically think that it's something that's good for you, but
Yeah.
I mean it's terrible.
Yeah.
But it's so yummy.
I know.
It brings me back to my childhood too, like
Yeah.
where we had yeah.
But if you look back, this is something I realized, because also just my mother didn't know any better, and she was raised too that like, oh, anything, if you're going to cook anything, there's like a can of cream of mushroom soup in it,
You
or
put it
it's
on,
all
yeah.
a can, it's all
Or
a
canned
pre-
vegetables.
yes,
Yeah.
it's all pre-prepared. And part of that, culturally, I was looking at The Joy of Cooking, which is like a cookbook that spans for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the older Joy of Cookings from the 40s, maybe say everyone is still cooking everything by hand. You make bread by from scratch. You made everything from scratch. And then there was, at a certain point, it was like the cultured aspirational kind of thing that, oh, like a woman, it was actually part of women's liberation too. I think that you don't have to be stuck in the kitchen. You take a can of this, you put it in here, you save so much time. And there was this cultural thinking about how that was, good for women's labor, but also like obviously companies were making more money off of that. There are a lot of reasons, but there were like a whole generation of people grew up not knowing how to make their own bread or do things from scratch, because that then became the norm and the kind of quote unquote good thing, until we learned more about how terrible all those things are for our bodies.
It was like it's another example of being colonized too for us. You know, it was um Inuit head of homes just blindly trusting whatever the white man said, and he said that this is the way that you're supposed to feed your family. So that's how they fed their family. Like, I mean, my grandmother is um in her 90s now, and she'll still say, you know, this is what's good for you, because they were told that, you know, and that's, they believed everything that the white man said.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely everything.
Mhm.
So, speaking of eating, Elia
Mhm.
Lauzon, our beautiful guest today from Kutja.
Sparkling eyes.
Yeah, she really does have sparkling eyes. Um, we're in our show. We like to play one of my songs
Mhm.
for our guests to hear and then talk about it afterwards. So we're going to listen to "Cannibal."
Hey, I love that song.
Yeah,
Me too.
hear it.
Too cool.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of eating,
yeah, speaking of eating, this song is about my ancestor. Itikitualok. Ha- ha- have you ever heard this story about
Uh-huh.
Itikitualok? Yeah, hey, at school probably.
No, at school when we spoke about that, we spoke about my ancestor, Ananak.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
we're gonna get to that. Yeah, so let me just explain this song briefly
Mhm.
to you guys and our listeners. So this is a true story of Itikitualok, my ancestor, um, who in the 1800s went through starvation. There was a famine um, in the Arctic, and Itigay Tualok and other people, other Inuit, were on this island called Appatok. It's right in the middle of the Angava Bay. It's this huge island, and um, there was a starvation, and there were no animals anywhere. So people were dying, and for survival, they resorted to eating the dead.
Mhm.
And Itigay Tualuk and his brother at first started off with just out of survival, but they developed a liking to eating
Mhm.
human flesh. These are my ancestors, so it's
Whoa.
like so messed up. Like psychologically,
Mhm.
Mm.
it's very hard for me to wrap my head around. And then they started murdering people. I don't know how many, but they murdered people to eat them. And I don't sing all the details of this story in my song, but the story is that they kept one young lady as a servant because men always needed a servant, I mean, a woman to do womanly things like cook, clean, and they treated her kindly, as oddly enough, and trusted her for some reason. So um, they would trick people into coming into their igloo. They had built an igloo where they have um, a deep slide where, like into an igloo, you crawl in head first inside an igloo. But they would tell their guests, "We have a feast at our igloo. So please come join us for the feast. And when you enter our igloo, enter with your feet first." So the brother would be ready as the person goes in, and the person unknowingly would slide down. And then as he's sliding, would be stabbed to death by the brothers and then eaten. And the woman couldn't take it anymore. And when the ice froze over in the bay, the ocean, she once she had an opportunity, she ran. She ran from Apatuk Island all the way to Tasiuyak. If you can, Jeremy, if you can pull up the map of Nunavik, the Angava Bay, we can see how far she ran. So she found, so yeah, that's that. You see the island in the middle, like, yeah, that one, that's Apatok Island. So she ran all the way to Tasiuyak in the bottom there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Over the ice.
Yes.
Wow.
Must have taken days. And she told the people in that camp, and then how they handled justice in those days were to eliminate murderous people. So elders came together from different camps and decided we must eliminate Itigit Tualuk. So that's what happened.
I heard when and nobody ever explained this to me, but I heard that when you would develop the taste of becoming a cannibal, there's the like I guess it's a folk story, but your teeth would turn black. Do you know why?
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. Like
Well,
they said that if you were known to be a cannibal and you develop the taste where your teeth would turn black as an indicator.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I've never
I
heard that before.
well, I heard it. I just don't know why.
Okay.
It's like one of those little things where I was so curious as a kid, like why, and
I'm
nobody
sure it
had a
has
reason.
something to do with back then, not having dental health, and so it was probably rotten teeth, and then associated with maybe one, and then again, what was that word again we were using yesterday?
Some superstition.
Superstitions,
Mm.
like how they
Mm-hmm.
develop
Yeah.
just
Maybe to discourage people.
from eating
Do
people.
like if you do this, your teeth will turn black,
Mhm.
and everybody will know.
But yeah, that's how the superstitions were made, like
Yeah.
it was just one person, and then it kind of like a telephone.
Evolved.
Yeah.
Broken telephone.
Hmm.
Beatrice, when you first told me this story, you described what igloos actually look like because you were saying there's just a really cartoonish kind of depiction.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what I grew up with was the cartoon. Could you,
Yeah.
just so people can visualize the story, can you tell me or just maybe describe a little bit what real igloos are like?
Yeah. So igloos are. It's a dome. It's like you first start cutting blocks that are about 40 to 60 pounds each. It's I've built an igloo before. And it's quite fascinating. It's really fascinating, and you really develop a respect for Inuit. We as Jeremie is googling, that's the inside of an igloo that's fairly old, because you can see the soot on the ceiling. And as you can see, it's smoothed over by the heat and humidity. And that's what insulates the igloo to keep it warm.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a dome. And you see that entrance there, Jeremie? Yeah, that one. That is very cartoony. That is not how igloos are. And that's so irritating. Like, it really is. But yeah, it's very fascinating. There were large igloos to camp in all season, like throughout the winter. As Inuit were nomadic, they would stay in one camp for the season, depending on what season it was. And there would be a large room. That's where the family dwelling, sleeping area, eating area was. And then there was a secondary, smaller room for belongings. And then some dogs would have an even smaller room. The lead dogs, not all the dogs, but the lead dog, who was the most valuable out of the pack. And an ohotak, which is like a wind blocker in the entrance. And they would have a hole called the hingak, the nose, for air circulation, and a window made of cut ice.
Whoa.
So that would be the only window in the igloo. An igloo is made of packed snow. It's not made of ice, although it is possible to make it from ice, but it's more used. Snow is more used, and it has to be a very specific snow that's like heavily packed by strong winds. And we tried building an igloo in December in Huaktak, and it was unusually warm outside. So we couldn't finish the roof of the igloo. It kept collapsing because the consistency of the snow was too
Fluffy.
yeah, like it wasn't compact enough, and it was like -2, -3, which is extremely unusual. And we really see climate change. Maybe Elia has learned about this
I have so many opinions on what's going on with climate change, and I have so many frustrations with the way that things are being handled. And I read a lot about the current circumstances of the world because we're not in the Holocene anymore. We're in the Anthropocene. This is 100% guaranteed. We live in a completely different world than what my grandparents grew up in. It's 100% not the same. Like the way that the world is now is about to be or is 1.2 degrees hotter, and we always saw that 1.5 is where it's supposed to end, like, or else all the tipping points are going to be hit, and then like there's no way to save the world. I think that that's just doomist first, because like 1.5 is 100% better than 2 degrees, but 2 degrees will always be better than 2.5.
Yeah.
And even if we do unfortunately hit 2.5 degrees, which I really don't think we'll do, I think human beings have a huge capacity to get together and fix things. It'll always be better to stop making it worse. And with the 1 degree warming, there's a really good book from Mark Linus. It's Our Final Warning. You like, if you have any empathy or if you have any sympathy, any feelings for the planet, you're gonna cry while you read it. Like, he's just talking about what's already happened with the 1 degree hotter world. There's so many ecological disasters that are going on, and you're seeing them back home too. Rivers aren't freezing anymore. People aren't trusting the lakes that they used to trust when they were kids. And even just, I would ask my mom what it was like growing up, because she's 48, I'm 23. And winter for me is completely different. It starts a month later than it did when I was a kid. And then I asked her, and she's like, it's like 3 months later than when I was a kid. So, and then I asked, because I was curious, like, what was it like for my Anantek? And she said that, oh, like winter started in like September. What do you like?
Oh, yeah. Ananatek being grandmother.
And she's like, you don't live that hard of a life compared to what they don't. Like, this is not a competition, but okay.
Different hardships.
And it breaks my heart too, because you see all these kids back home and they won't know winter the way that we knew winter, and then I don't know winter the way that you guys must have known winter. And for our culture, so much of our language, so much of our tradition, so much of our clothing, all of the things that are traditionally Inuit have a huge risk of disappearing. Because why would you need an atigik or boaluks or all of the winter clothing that we make if winter doesn't come anymore?
That is totally true.
That shit makes me so sad.
Right? Yeah, it makes, it's hard
It's
to,
overwhelming.
it is. It really is overwhelming, and it makes you want to do something about it.
And everyone can do stuff about it. Like, there's always little changes that we can actively make, being more conscious of what we're consuming, whether it's like from clothing brands or where it, like what food we get, where it comes from. Obviously, like, shopping local food will always be better for the planet because there's no transport emissions that are being made to the extent that they are if you're like getting your produce from Argentina and Chile. And like, I know that people want specialty foods, but shopping in season will always be better, making sure that you're not over consuming products, because in a capitalistic society and in industrialized societies, we value overproduction and we value consumerism. We value, like, so many people get their worth out of what they own now. Like, what property do you have?
Yeah.
What items do you have? Like, do you have the new phone? Because now phones that are so intelligent, you need to replace every year despite still being good. Like, that makes no sense. And if we're more conscious as individuals, we can make small impacts, but small impacts as a society will make huge impacts. And if we start pressuring governments and corporations, they have to get with the program. Power of the people will always outweigh the power of wealth, in my opinion.
Amen. That's why I wanted you here. Yeah, it's so great to hear young Inuit passionately talk about these things.
Such important things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that impacts us all. That really impacts us all.
And I'm sure a lot of people have the desire to be better, have the desire to know how to make these changes. They just don't know how,
Yeah,
you
where
know?
to begin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I didn't
Especially.
know how to recycle when I moved here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really didn't know
Me
how to
neither.
recycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started compost maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's a new habit that
Mm-hmm.
I got used to and now I can't undo.
Yeah.
And every time I go up north to Nunavik, throwing away like recyclables well,
I
at
know.
least for food, we give those to the dogs. Like the
Mhm.
dogs, like my parents have dogs, so all the leftovers, scraps, not all the leftovers, but like the bad scraps and everything go to the dogs. At least that. But throwing like everything
Soda
else,
cans and plastic
yeah.
bags, and there's no such thing as recycling plants in the north,
No,
and
there
Mhm.
isn't.
people don't have that mentality. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and
But
like, do you know of like,
In
I've
Iqaluit, I think they have a recycling plant. Mhm.
like there. I know that th- this is talked about in meetings involving um like the region of
mhm.
Nunavik that it would cost too much to compile the recyclables and then ship them by ship to the south to recycling plants. But like, do you have any?
There are a lot of movements with like KRG and Makivik towards making Nunavik greener first, because like we had no option but to have diesel power plants
Mm-hmm.
because that's what the government gave us.
Yes,
They didn't.
back in the day.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like they use our rivers to power
Hydro.
hydro, and then they force us to burn fuel to keep our homes warm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's environmental racism. Like that's insane, the fact that they don't value putting recycling plants, composting plants, because we produce so much compostable stuff that even if you can't send down recyclables, they could create composting facilities. We create so much
Mm-hmm.
organic waste that can be composted, and when they tried to do that, the government tried to argue that that's a waste of resources because people have been
Because we're not
trying.
worth it.
Mm-hmm.
We have never been worth it. Why are we burning our dumps? Why are we breathing in dump fires? And we're seeing huge impacts on our bodies based on what they give us. And that that just shows so much how little they value us other than for the natural resources we just happen to have
Mm-hmm.
always existed on.
Yeah.
And like the lack of education on things that are like better than or good for us is all a part of the plan too. Like how are we going to be conscious about what is bad for us if they're not even teaching us that it's
Mm-hmm.
bad for us? And all of these things that, and they'll say that, well, you're supposed to go and find that research for yourself. You're supposed to do these things for yourself. You're an individual in an individualistic society. If you want to be better, then you have to do it. But they're not giving you the resources to know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not putting it in our language. They're not
Mhm.
putting it in the next language that's most known back home, and that's English. They have it all in French, and they make it all very difficult to get access to. And then the few organizations that are trying their best have to fight tooth and nail to get what little they do. And in Gujarat, they had tried to figure out how we can stop having like the Canadian Tire the dump.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent photos about what of what we have, of all the vehicles, all the like scrap metals, all the like
The
appliances that are just
chemicals.
everything that's just there right
Yeah.
next to the water.
Yeah.
And it was valued at more than $3 million worth of waste that they could recycle and get money for, which would be less than if they were to like it we would make money on sending it down even with the shipping costs.
Mm-hmm.
But then those that were going to stand to make money off of it argued against it. And then now we still have our dumps. We still have all those things. And if someone were to try to argue that we don't have the composting facility, we produce so much organic waste that we need composting facilities. We produce too much compost for all of the little green efforts that we have in our communities. And if we were to invest in the facilities, not only would they be used and people would have a more positive impact on the environment, but we would be able to find ways to educate those that are around, like, oh, someone will pick up your compost the same way that they pick up your garbage. Like,
Yeah. There's so
Rolling
much
snowball.
possibilities, eh? It's like where to start.
but
I had
people have
this-
started and
Yeah.
are.
I
Uh-huh.
had this little idea a few years ago when I was feeling kind of how you feel. Sometimes things overwhelm me so deeply like that too, and I'm a problem solver by nature. Like it's just the way, I take these funny routes, but I just get things done, you know. So I had this idea that everybody who travels south should bring a bag of recycling, and Joey and I will go pick it up at the airport.
Joey, of course.
Yeah, he just has to follow my plan. I had to figure out later how I'm going to sell this to him with how busy we are. But anyway, I was going to problem solve that one later. But, you know, like there's so many little things that people could do. I mean, this was my big idea that I was, of course, going to try to save the world again and can't. But you know, there's these little things that people can do. You can eat, you know, you come down with an empty suitcase, bring some fucking recycling, man, you know, and drop it off anywhere. Drop it off on the side of the street.
In Montreal, there are like recycling bins
Yeah,
in
that's it.
public.
And you're allowed to bring luggage down, so bring it down. And I mean, it may seem silly, but it would make a difference
if
everybody
everybody
did
did
it.
Even
Yeah.
if it was just the aluminum. Apparently, aluminum is one of the most important things to recycle because plastics and things degrade. It's like half of the things that we quote unquote recycle by putting in our bins actually ends up in Indonesia. And it's another, or other places like developing places because it's another form of environmental racism where we just ship it off. But the aluminum is really light for one thing. And also you can get, often get refunds for it. And that's one of the few materials that's fully recyclable. Like you don't lose anything. It doesn't degrade. And in fact, I have one of my best friends is a chemical engineer now, and she's just got a job at McMaster's, but she works only on aluminum right now as like a possible alternative fuel because you can like from the full cycle. I won't get into the chemical details because I'm not as smart as she is. But anyways, you can take an aluminum can, get energy from it through a process that ends up as another material at the end, but then turn it back into aluminum again. So it's apparently kind of like a closed loop as long as you figure out good energy cycles for it. So yeah, even aluminum is always worth recycling. That's my little pitch.
Luckily, we do recycle.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some of the communities, and it's become more common in the last, I guess, 10 years.
Like pop cans, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, pop
Mhm.
cans. Yeah. Because a lot of people drink pop up north.
Oh my God, they do.
Which is like another.
It's another issue.
It's another issue, but it's all they gave us, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a non-perishable. It's something that like it's not something that you have to worry about going bad, which is why it's not just an issue for Inuit back home. It's an issue for lower income people all over Canada. So last year when the federal government decided that they were going to be raising the price of pop, saying, oh, well, we're going to use like the tax that we get from it to like fund better eating habits. And it's like, why don't you just lower the cost of better food so that way it's more available?
Why does the government make it so complicated?
Canada, it's a unique country where hundreds of billions of dollars go and get money laundered, and we have very few white collar crime laws. It's not a criminal offense. You would end up paying less in the fine, no jail time, no mark on your record, and you still got to launder the money. You laundered more money than your fine was. So what? It's just kind of like, oh, here's your fee.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's a hot take for me. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, teach us.
One of the
Just
things
Yeah.
that Trudeau did in his in one of the bills that he pushed forward was to, he says, lower the taxes for all, and like, you know, raise certain levels of crime and then lower certain levels of crime. But there in Canada we have almost no laws on like in the Competition Bureau, and that we make it so easy to have monopolies. And in these monopolies, we typically have a lot of people who are able to take money from other countries and then launder that money and then put it into offshore banks. And he lowered the punishments on all of them. Very coincidentally, he's also friends with a bunch of billionaires, and he's also the grandson of a billionaire, and he is also a man of the people. Didn't you hear?
Oh God.
And we have almost no laws on white collar crime. That's why we have so many big companies that come here. That's why we have such a big GDP. And as a global standard, we only really value the GDP, and that's how much
What is
money.
GDP?
It's gross domestic product, and it's how
Okay.
much you sell and how much your people make.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why we have such high telecom rates. Like, you know, we're the only like Western country where we pay like $70 on just the phone plan. That's just your phone plan. That's not including your internet at home. That's
Yeah.
not including if you have cable. The average bill for a family could be like $300-400. But if we were to introduce competition the way that like the free market so claims to want, we would be able to lower those prices, and that would lower our GDP because people would be spending less on it. And if you want to be a big company, a big country, you need a high GDP. So it's kind of by design that it's so expensive to live in Canada, because it makes us a big player on the board, on the global board. That's why we have so many like relaxed laws on like with the Competition Bureau, and we have so many like rules against American companies coming in and lowering the prices, because we're so afraid of America. And they have in America, their Competition Bureau can stop merges, but Rogers and Shaw are merging, and all they had to do was give a little bit of like they had to sell a subsidiary company to Videotron, and they were offered like I think it was like a few $100 million more. But it's also something I think everybody should learn about, because our Competition Bureau, the only thing you really have to do to, even if somebody says that if the Competition Bureau says that you can't pass this merge, you just have to prove that it's going to be better for shareholders, not for citizens, not for consumers. You just have to prove that it's going to be in the best interest of the shareholders, and then they get to still merge as long as they lower the impact, not eliminate the impact, just lower the impact. And this system has made it so that way we've monopolized things from vet companies. We've monopolized essentially banks. There's like 5 big banks, and for some reason all of them have the same fees, same rates, same competition. We've monopolized energy production. We've monopolized like anything that you can think of from telecom. Canada loves monopolies, and all of that is bad for consumers. Even in a capitalistic society, there's like capitalism argues that competition lowers prices. Lowered prices is good for people, and it's good for the free market. It's good for the system. But we love monopolies here. There's like 3 big families that own so much in this country.
Do you think, Elia, that for all of you actually, do you think people are kind of cashing in the north in this way then, by this lack of competition or being exploitative?
Oh yeah, FCNQ, totally.
FCNQ, huge.
Yeah.
Can you explain what FCNQ is for?
So FCNQ stands for Fédération Coopérative
Nord Québec.
Nord du Québec. Yeah, so it's we call it the co-op. Do you know a bit of the history of FCNQ?
It was, from what I learned, it was a positive introduction from when HBC had a monopoly, the Hudson's Bay Company. When they had a monopoly on the north, and the only thing that you could really do was trade fur and whatever they argued was right. And then when the co-ops came in, it offered a new way of making money, typically by selling sculptures or by selling like hats or little sewn goods, and they would send them down, and you'd get more commission than from HBC. But by it's positive compared to HBC. But then they went to all communities, and now they have a monopoly on a lot of their groceries, and then like their way of transferring money, and then your fuel and your hotel.
They became greedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's you're a member, like in your community, you're a member to your local co-op, but not all co-ops are like successful, like each, because we have 14 communities in Nunavik.
So the better your
Yeah.
co-op is,
Yeah, the members.
better,
Yeah,
okay.
at the end of the year, they'll get a little profit. But like the products, like
It's like a double-edged sword, I guess. Like it's, you're kind of doing this for yourself, but it's, the one that sits on the top of the pyramid that gets the most.
yeah, and it's not
You're
it's
giving
not Nunavik.
crumbs. Yeah.
It's really not Nunavik.
It's not Nunavik that wins, because at the end of the day, their base is here in Montreal, like, and it's by a bunch of like old white people.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
That's what I picture when I think of FCNQ.
Yeah,
Like almost walking with a cane. Like,
I'll just say I'm not shocked.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they do, like, FCNQ tends to do like the barges back home. So when they bring the fuel that goes to our power plants, they get a cut. When they bring the fuel that goes in our snowmobiles to go camping, they get a cut.
But they hush you because you get a cut too.
And like they give you like pennies on the hundreds of dollars that they make.
yeah.
And they argue you have to be happy with it.
And the clothing, the only like, so this is like a general store. We don't have shopping malls. Some communities have 300 people, some have 600, some have 800, some have 1,000, and there's typically a co-op store and a northern store. So the co-op store will carry like clothing. Well, both stores will, but we're talking like really cheap,
Like Hawaiian
cheap
shorts
and expensive.
in the
Like,
Arctic.
what the hell are we gonna do with Hawaiian shorts?
Like you're not going to get that Nike jumpsuit up there.
No,
And
no.
even if you were, if it would cost you $100 down here, it's gonna cost you $300 up there.
Yeah, it's 3 to 4 times
Yeah.
more expensive. And like iPods,
Oh my
people will spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars for electronics, and they don't know any better. So they completely take advantage of Inuit, and poverty is real in the north, and food poverty as well. The fresh food is ridiculously expensive, and it's cheaper to buy processed foods. So how are we supposed to get healthy, stay healthy? And like the systemic racism is so
It makes you angry to go home and you see everything and you're like, Jesus Christ. Like I know that they don't care about us, but they don't need to make it this obvious.
it's like, yeah, the
It's
lawmakers,
borderline cruel.
it is very cruel. It is cruel. And the lawmakers make laws for Inuit when they don't even know what it's like. Like there'll be ministers that come up to visit to Nunavik and have absolutely no clue.
But then they think that they can like create bills and then say, oh, this is what we're going to do and it's going to be better for you. It's like, but you don't even know what it is right now. How is it going to be better from before if you don't even know what before is?
Those save the people.
Yeah. So yeah, like the dollar store toys,
that are
that
$20.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and like people are buying these things.
But it's also all that's available to them. There's
Yeah,
nothing else you can
there's nothing.
do.
Yeah,
And when you try to when you try to make things better, it's typically, unfortunately, like, you don't Inuit are wary of new things. They are
yeah.
very wary of new things.
And especially if it's a fellow Inuk doing it,
Oh yeah.
Oh
because
yeah,
we've always
sad
been
but true.
told it's everything the white man says is the right way, so it's super, you're going against the odds, you're streaming, you're paddling upstream, it's hard.
Yeah, glum.
Ilia, where do you find hope?
Well, I find hope a lot in people my age too, because like, very unfortunately, when I was starting to learn more about home, they would refer to my mom's generation as the lost generation because they were the bridge between two worlds. Like, my grandparents lived the nomadic life for as long as they could, and then when they had kids, they had to become sedentary. But my mom tells me stories about living in a matchbox, and I always grew up with indoor heating. I grew up with electricity. I grew up with all of these luxuries available to me, and she's like, my mother helped me as much as she could navigate a world that she wasn't familiar with. And the reason why I heard, like, it was explained to me that they were referred to as the lost generation was because they spent so much time either translating for their parents and their grandparents a world that didn't invite diversity. And her generation did the best that they could for mine and gave us all the tools that they had available to them. And a lot of my friends are so inspiring. They're so interesting. They're persevering through all sorts of like generational trauma. They're persevering through so many types of internalized racism, blatant racism, racism amongst Inuit, saying that I'm not Inuk enough and I will never be Inuk enough. And then you ask them, well, what is Inuk enough? And nobody has an answer for that because being Inuk was frowned upon, and there's like internalized capitalism's a whole thing back home now. Everybody needs a job, everybody needs money, even though it was a very communitarian society that like if I go hunting and I have a bunch of game and I end the day with nothing, it was a good day because everybody ate. But now it's, well, how much are you going to pay me for it?
Yeah,
But I see so much hope in my society, like in my generation, and in the societies we're creating amongst each other to be more inviting. And all of these things that were frowned upon, like, when I ask people who are older than me, like, what do you know about shamanism? What do you know about like traditions? What do you know about what our ancestors did? They said, well, when I said the word angakuk, shaman, I was beat, so I never asked again. But I am very lucky that I was like not only allowed to, but encouraged to ask questions. And now I have so many friends who are asking questions and who have the answers to so many others. And it's so interesting to see them. Not only are we learning to be proud of something that we were told to be ashamed of, but they're bringing it back. And it's so inspiring. It's like a lot of people warn you when you're going to school down here, oh, the culture shock's going to be huge because there's buildings everywhere, there's sidewalks, and it's like, that wasn't really the culture shock. Everybody's been south, or if they haven't been south, it's in our media, we know it. The culture shock for me was like talking to people and they think like individuals.
yeah, that's
And the thing that is never spoken back home but taught to everyone is you think like a community. You think like a group and you do the best for the group. If you're about to do something that's going to hurt the group but be good for you, you don't do it at all. So that's where my culture shock was. And all of the people that I associate with also think like communities. And those are the people I love spending time with, because it's the only time that you get to exist with them. And you know that at the end of the day, they're just happy to be here too. They just want to be with people who want to be with people.
You make me cry.
I could listen to you forever.
Yeah, your generation, like the strong young people, inspire me very much, because like in this pretty dark era of being Inuk and Indigenous, seeing you guys, like you're 23, my daughter's 23, and just watching you guys blazing,
Yeah. Blooming.
blooming into very outspoken, no, like whether it's loud or gentle, seeing you guys passionately talk about these things is what brings me hope. Because like it's so easy for me, and like I don't know about you guys, but just to like look at all the situations in our society, whether it's in Nunavik or the world as a whole, and looking at all the impacts, the negative impacts, and like this the scariness of like global warming, is the world gonna end, like all these things. But then you hear people like you with drive and the belief and the will, and saying we can make a change. And then like it makes me think that's so true. That is so true. Like there's like, we're in an era where everything is, technology is so advanced.
Yeah.
Like so advanced that people are inventing technologies and engineering stuff that can reverse impacts, like environmental impacts. Like now Nunavik is developing solar panels and windmills and water, current, electricity, and all these things. So yeah, there is hope.
Energy sovereignty is sovereignty from them having leverage over you. That's the there's a bunch of organizations in Canada, Indigenous organizations, where they're calling on youth, and I was very lucky to be a part of one where they were just teaching us about power sovereignty. How if you're going to a negotiation table and they're keeping your lights on, you're already at a disadvantage. So you need to first be able to keep your own lights on. They have to have no way of having leverage over you. And then you can enter a table of negotiations with more even grounds. And it's so cool what Makivik is doing. They're investing so much resources into energy sovereignty, which is and it's so interesting to see. And I know that I think Makivik needs a different PR person, because I had to like find this. I definitely
Maybe
think
you're the next PR person.
Ooh.
No, you're the next Makivik president.
Oh. But they definitely need a different PR person to like tell us what they're doing, because they're doing so much and it's so interesting. They're trying to like level out the playing field so that way we can go into negotiations not with an upper hand, because they're never going to give us the upper hand. They stole our land.
Yeah, the government stole our land.
But
a little more equality.
At least a little more equality, where we know that if we act out, they're not going to
shut our lights off.
Yeah, they can't do that if we control our power. And they're doing that like in a bunch of reservations all across Canada. Is they're doing a bunch of energy sovereignty movements, so that way they can go into renegotiations without fear of things being taken from them.
Yeah. There's so many. It like I get speechless just thinking how they tried to erase us, eradicate us,
Oh,
murdered children, innocent children, and like what they did in residential schools to erase all of us. And then like today, 2023, we're still here and
to have these blooming people like you.
yeah, it's
I always
beautiful.
think we went through so much. The generation before us went through so much. We were not as educated. We made do with what we had. I'm certainly not educated, but I took a lot of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it was worth it if it could get you where you are. Get you guys where you are. I'd do it again over and over.
Oh, that's what I think about my Innaaruliks, man. I just, so few people back home give you like a lot of hope because we're all like in survival mode 100% of the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh God,
yeah.
Mike, you gotta do
There's
better
there's
than
soft,
toilet paper.
tissues
there's
next
soft
time.
toilet paper in the bathroom. I mean,
But yeah, to from where it started to
Thanks.
where they were being murdered to where they were being stolen, beaten, raped.
And
To our
given
gener-
disease
Yeah.
deliberately, given TB, and just watched to die.
And then saying that sanitariums are the gift from the white man
Oh my
to the Eskimos. Like, what the hell is wrong
But
with
look at
you?
us. Look what bloomed from us.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
look at my cousin's kids and I have so much hope for them because they're so smart, they're so small, they're so like they're looking at a world with positivity. And I think about like what my mom must have had to go through, and I think about what she's told me in her upbringing, and I think about my own childhood, and like when you're from the north, nothing's easy. But they're growing up curious and happy, and it's like I'm looking at them like, wow,
That's the generation after you that has less trauma,
Yeah.
and they have so much like so many role models to look at because like when I was a kid, it's like you were shunned for having an Inuk role model because it's like no Inuk can be as good as a white person.
Yeah, it was always like that.
But now they're looking at other Inuit with like hope. They're like, oh, I want to be like her. I was like, oh my God. She like my niece, she sees like my tattoos and she'll like count them and then she'll ask me to draw them on with makeup and it breaks my heart. Like, yes, I will do that for you.
Like my baby, she'll like trace my chin and say, "Wow,
That me.
that me."
On the tattoo too.
Yeah.
Like my mom.
Yeah, she'll like trace her big sister's
Scratch with her nail.
yeah. Yeah, she tries like poke. Yeah, she tried to poke these out before. But yeah, that is that's why we have these discussions. That's why I live the way I do. Yeah. Try to Hanok, have hope. Yeah, just have hope.
I was in a conversation with someone when I was telling them what my motivations are, and I was like, I want there to be a better world for all the kids that I love.
Yeah.
And I want them to grow in my hometown not wanting to leave it. Because that's what everybody says. Like, I want to leave when I'm old enough. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go. And I was one of them too. But now I can't wait to go home. Like that's where my whole family is. And I want them to grow up in a town where they don't want to leave. Where leaving breaks their heart.
Where they don't want to die.
Where they don't want to die.
Yeah, where they want to live. Period. Like not just.
And when I was telling that to someone, they tried to diminish it by saying, well, that just sounds like you're living for other people. I'm like, what other life is there?
Yeah.
If, like, I'm very content on my own. I'm okay spending time alone. I love myself, but that doesn't give me purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Where I find purpose is like thinking of them being in a better school, them not being afraid that their friend is gonna die on the weekend, or like
Mm-hmm. I'm okay. I'm okay. But I
Yeah.
want you to be okay. I
yeah,
want better for you.
like
Yeah.
I understand that completely.
I'm really happy I am,
Mm-hmm.
but I want everybody around me to
Mhm.
be really happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my life. I live a good life. I'm very lucky to have gotten to where I am.
Oh, friggin' love you, man.
But I look at them and I want them to grow up loving life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ugh, and they do, and they're
Mhm.
young and they're smiling, and it's my little cousin's hockey games today, and they
Yeah.
like my Bertha, she got a goal. Sammy was game
Oh,
star yesterday.
amazing.
Speaking of the youth, we have a question for you, B, that came in from a young gentleman named Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
I'll set that up for you here.
All right.
Cute.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Eugène, j'ai 11 ans. Je connais votre groupe parce que je suis déjà allée à un de vos concerts à Québec. Puis ma question, ça serait pour Béatrice. C'est quoi l'instrument de musique que tu sais jouer le mieux?
So Eugene just said that he came to our show in Quebec. He's 11 years old. And he's asking what instrument I'm most comfortable playing. I'll say the guitar. C'est la guitare. I relearned how to play guitar in 2016 in the summer. Because I wanted to learn how to write songs, because I never wrote songs. I only wrote lyrics, and I always felt inferior because I didn't know how to make music. But after Bucky, our drummer and producer, very passionately told me that I can make music, that music is in me. And he said, don't ever tell yourself you don't know how to make music, because you live it. You have it. It's in you. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a guitar and I'm going to practice every day. And then I did. And then I wrote My All to You in 4 months. And I'm very proud of myself.
One of my favorite songs.
Thank you. Yeah, the My All to You album. I still need to learn a lot. I just know basic chords, and that's okay.
Mhm.
And I love it. I play a little bit of ukulele. I'd love to learn how to play piano and spoons, harmonica. I want to learn everything, actually. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you, Eugène. Merci.
Good question.
I think we all just need a moment to, let everything sink in.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just-
because I
it's
made
a lot there.
I brought up crying again.
Breathe.
Mm.
We
Oh,
need to-
it's so good to be able to talk about these things openly.
Mhm.
That's what we need more of on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we're in tune with our feelings. It's good to be that
It's so
way.
nice to fall in love with people too. I think that's one of the most important things that you can do in life is listen and learn from people, and falling in love with people just adds so much more to your soul, to who you are,
Yeah.
and then you give more. So
Yeah.
Life is worth living when you love.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love
Yeah.
love. I loved Valentine's. I love all the excuses to say you love people. I love telling them that I love them when I leave.
Mhm.
But you know, like how this is me doing like a little bit of hallunology, but like
Hallunology.
because like you know how like there's Eskimology, the study of Inuit,
Uh-huh.
and like I totally grew up with a white dad, but I remember because I was always around Inuit, he had such weird mannerisms compared to them,
Uh-huh.
and he would like stand at the door for way too long saying bye to people for like 20 minutes.
Like, leave already.
Like, what are you doing at the door? Just come back in. And then I would always ask him, like, why do you do that? And as when I went to NS, we started calling it hallunology as a group. And like, I love love. So my friends and I, because most of my friends are Inuk from home, are bye because Inuit don't say bye for long. We're like, see you, love you, bye. That's it. Like cutthroat, that's it. See you, love you, bye. That's it.
I did that with my sister the other day when it was the first time in almost 2 years that we spent quality time together. And it's a rule for me. Like, we don't linger in the sad goodbye. Like, we went for dinner and I was sad for sure. She was gonna drive back to New Brunswick. But I just was like, okay, get out, go. Go. And that was then she said, I'll message you later. But she knows we're not gonna see each other for months. But we don't need to linger there, the goodbyes doesn't need to be sad. We just love the love.
Yeah.
I always wondered too why, because Inuit are stoic. They're these like walls of they feel there's so much positive feeling, but there's also like a resiliency around them, like a bubble. And I was reading about why it might be like that. And when I was reading about our gods, which is, I don't recommend reading what Eskimologists wrote. Like, it's definitely got heavy undertones of racism.
For sure.
But when you read between it, and we had a god that, like, he was a storm god, and he just like, move on. That's the whole thing. It's like, you gotta move on. People die in the north. People love in the north. Things happen.
Move on.
A storm comes and goes. Your feelings have to come and go, or else you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
And that explained so much to me of navigating feelings around adults back home. Because they're like, okay, I'm angry today, but I'm not angry tomorrow. I love today. I probably love tomorrow, but not as hard. And it explained so much to me when I read about the things like colonization. Like, yes, a lot of the things that are back home are just like products of colonialism, but a lot of things too, like, we are so unique, we are so interesting, we have so many cool things, we're geniuses. Like, how are you gonna make clothing while you're struggling to survive in an environment that's hostile to almost all life? Like,
But you had to make an igloo to sit in to make those clothes.
and the igloo itself is like a structure of architectural genius.
It is. There's nothing like it.
With the elements around you working against you.
And then you go in there with your game that you hunted, which is built to survive in the cold, and you're not. They're so smart, man. I look at all of these things, and I have conversations with a lot of people, and the smartest people I know back home didn't graduate high school. Like, they're
experts on the land.
They're experts on the land, but they're experts with people. Like,
or School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And so often we're growing up to like only value Western colonial institutions of knowledge.
Oh yeah.
I find it so crazy looking at how interesting everyone is, because very often I'll come across people saying that, like, oh, I didn't graduate XYZ, or I don't have this form of certification, so I don't think I'm smart. It's like, you're probably one of the smartest people I know. Like, why are you trying to diminish your knowledge because no white person gave you a paper for it. Like, that's so confusing to me. And it's always been so confusing to me because my mom, she did post-secondary, but she didn't get her certificate for it. And I can't think of someone who's better with numbers. I can't think of someone who's smarter in these aspects. And when I try to tell her, she's like, she does that thing that Inuit do, like, don't talk about me. Like, don't compliment me.
Yeah.
And like I literally had to sit her down and be like, you did your best in that school, but just because you didn't get the paper doesn't mean you're not smart. And
Love that.
oh, it's so crazy to me because I kind of want to drop out sometimes. And it's a lot to do with
You're not alone.
like being in these rooms with people that don't value what I see as intelligence.
Wisdom.
And like the smartest people I know are Inuit, like, and indigenous people. Like, they have so much know-how about the world around them. And maybe you don't get that piece of paper saying that you're good in that one subject, but they know everything else. And they know how to, like, I think a lot of white kids don't know how to talk to each other or don't know how to talk to people. And indigenous people, they invite you in, they create this sphere that you want to exist in. It's like, wow, I want to be there. And that, like, you have to be good with people with that. You have to be smart to do that. That's crazy. Like, like, white people write books about this, but Inuit just know it. Indigenous people just know it. They're like, oh, people like people they want to be around. So be someone that people want to be around.
Yeah. We have Hanok, a warmth. We have a warmth.
Yeah.
And we're communal. We're not individualistic.
No.
We've talked about this before on this show where
we put our elders on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Which is not what people do
in Western society. Like, we don't put them away.
And it's these things that are ingrained in us.
Yeah.
And that makes us kind of elevated in a different way. You know? That makes us wise in a different way.
Yeah.
That makes us have these eyes to see things in a different way, to have empathy.
Yeah, it's like we love spending time with friends and family, and I'm still not used to making schedules to go eat at a friend's place or invite friends over.
You just show up.
You just show up, and you don't need to have all the food shopped and like planned out. No, you just prepare whatever you have in stock and you cook it and you share it. Or you just take out the frozen fish and matta and just eat on the floor with your friends and just make banik or suvalik.
Inuit value you for who you are and not what you produce. In this society that we're being forced to live in, values you for your production.
Yeah.
And they don't value.
And who you know.
Yeah. Oh my God, that one's so weird to me.
And what you have.
Oh, that is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, you value people based on the traits that they have and whether or not you want to be around them. Not like if they have a nice car or a nice house, or like, oh, they hold big dinners with so many random things. Like, no, they want to be with you because you are interesting.
It's always so relaxing when you spend time with people that you've just met and they don't ask you right away, what do you do? And this thing, and it's not that it's bad to ask that, but it's a marker of, like, you know, what you're valuing.
Where they're going to put you in their brain file.
How much should I respect you based on your job?
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Because I'm not what I produce. I value, I have very talented friends with cool jobs and they have such knowledge, like, but when I go visit them, I'm not like, oh, so what did you do at your new job? I just
Mhm.
ask them like,
What's in your fridge, man?
what are we
What
eating?
are we eating? Yeah. Where's all your cats? Tell them to come now. Yeah. It stinks in here. Yeah. Totally get that. I totally. You know, when I was at the trade show this week, there was like I don't know what you call. I don't know nothing about nothing. I'm not educated. I live in my little earring making room and feed cats. That's the gist of me. But I look really colorful and people stare at me. So anyway, we're at the trade show and I'm hustling, you know, like I need to buy cat food. And one of the people that work for the trade show that is going to do the promotional shit, she came and she said, well, can I take a picture of you beside your earrings? And I said, no, but I mean, you can take a picture of the earrings if you want. And she was mind blown. Like, she couldn't believe that I said no to her and that.
Was she offended?
Yeah. And she was like, no, go beside your earrings. Your hair matches them, you know, like. And I was like, no, I don't want to. But you know, and you need the publicity, and people need to see this colorful you because you made yourself colorful, you know, like. But no, it's I don't know what my point was, but don't take pictures of me and come visit my humble home. And it's not about who I know or how educated I am, or I'm not educated.
You're educated in life.
Yeah,
Very much.
that's why I said
very much.
I went to the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
You're valedictorian.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Yeah. I do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my sister wrote a post last night. Freaking kid, I love her so much. She never ever ever toots her own horn ever. And this opportunity came up, and it was about talking about how you prevailed and wanting kids to do well in school. And my sister felt so strongly about talking about how she on her scale, how she prevailed even without going to school and being ADD and homeschooling her kids. And she wrote this beautiful post finally about herself. And I've said it time and time again. I'm sure I've said it to you, that my sister is the smartest person I know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Everyone, cry again. Subject. Because Mike don't know how to frickin' buy tissue paper.
You're hanging on a string, Mike.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's
we're so cool. We're so different. We're so colorful. We're so wise. So freaking cool.
yeah, I agree.
That's how I talk about my sisters too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I met your little sister at the trade show.
Man, she's so special. She's so special. Like, some people will say it's because she's the youngest, but she's always had such a gentle heart. Like, she brings the world in. I'm about to cry too.
Ah.
Love.
But she's sensitive to people and to their feelings and to like the world around her. And even when she was a little kid, like, you wouldn't even really want to be that mean to her. Like, I
Mhm.
was mean to her because I was her sister, but like but you didn't want to be mean to her because she just looked at the world with these big eyes. Like, she saw everything, and you could she's so special.
Love.
It's the world's greatest natural resource.
Yes.
Love.
Yes. Aw.
And like my older sister's so talented. Like she's this force to be reckoned with. Like she seems gentle when you meet her, and she is.
She is. She really is. She's a real sweetheart.
And it's just like I look at her and I look at what they do, and I'm just in awe. Like I much prefer to be on my own and learning and like reading new things. And they're like learning people. They're learning, like they're teaching me so much stuff that I couldn't even think to want to learn. And it's like they're broadening my horizons all the time, and looking at the world through their eyes. Everything is so like artsy and special, and I try my best to look at the world like an artist because I'm around so many talented artists. And I'm seeing so much more value in life, in the colors and the shapes and the sizes, and the world around me looks bigger when I try to think about why did someone do it like this. And they've always seen that. They're the ones that taught me how to see that. It's like, wow, you have a view on the world that I want to adopt because you look at it so special.
Speaking of your sister, your older sister Kayla, what's her Instagram handle?
Her Instagram is August Beadwork. She makes silapaks. So
Let's bring that up.
she is a talented seamstress, beater. She wants to get into making prints. Like she'll tell me like, Elia, you don't even know. Like I see these things in my head and then I make them real.
I know that feeling.
Yeah,
This is
young
why
entrepreneur. Here
this
she
is why I stay up at
Ooh,
till
look at
5 in the
that.
morning because my brain is just always like,
yeah.
Oh, those are my little cousins. That's Alexia and Namayu. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. And Kayla made those silapaks. She's so talented. Like I
love seeing young entrepreneurs. Yeah.
I can't even begin to understand what goes on in an artist's head to make things that are that pretty.
that make us beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Very empowering. Yeah. So if you want to support young Inuit entrepreneurs,
No, that's
August
me.
Beadwork.
Aw.
Look at you. You're so beautiful.
Frig.
Yeah. Yeah.
She makes art, man.
Yeah. Beautiful. So there's we were talking about your dad, and I mean you mentioned him very briefly, and I have a very brief history with him. He played keyboard on my very first album. I don't want to make you cry.
No, it's okay. It's a good cry. Like, you know, it comes in waves.
Yeah, because your dad passed away not too long ago.
It's been 4.5 years. And like, I credit my parents for a lot of what I am, but he's the most special person I'd ever met in my life. And I'm so grateful to have had him. Because like, he was like this, he was this gentle guy.
When I picture
Humble. Humble,
you
hey?
and your sisters, I picture you and your sisters walking behind your dad when you were little girls, like into the stores and stuff, always with your dad.
Yeah.
Your mom too, but
He was always there, everything. Like, he had this view of the world that like I do my best to replicate. He valued people over everything. He didn't care about like accomplishments. He wanted to know, are you a good person and do you do good? And like he asked me a question when I was being kind of an asshole when I was a kid, and he said, do you think you're more human than them? And it checked me in my place really deep. And now I say it to myself too, like, am I behaving as if I am more human than them because I'm not more deserving of life than anyone else? And like life is something that's beautiful to begin with, but to act as if you deserve it more than someone else is just, it's dumb.
Yeah. So unacceptable.
And he was so kind, like so smart, and I now know that I probably have ADHD. And so I was like one of those motor mouth kids that had 100 questions a minute. and and he handled it with grace, man. Like I can't think of a better thing he could have done than be who he was in my upbringing. And I was so lucky to have him too, because I nowadays see men not doing a fraction of what he was doing for my household. I'm like, I saw someone do 10 times that and you're complaining about what you have to do. Chill out.
Yeah.
Like, parents, man, when you watch them persevere through a lot of things, especially when you learn more about them, when you start to have a bigger worldview, like, it's a wonder that parents do what they do and how they do it. And I'm so grateful to him. Everything I am today is a credit to the people who helped raise me, and he did the most.
Alam mo. Yeah. So on that note, we're thinking of your dad, Elia Lauzon, with this song. Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us, Elia.
Thank you.
Oh.
Somebody would have you would think.